Another exciting episode of Speculative Tolkienism. Today, our chapter is The Two Towers, Chapter 9, Flotsam and Jetsam.
What you get from a shipwreck is junk in the sea floating around. I have never seen one word without the other. Have you ever seen the word used, flotsam,
I think
without
I've seen...
hence proceeding to the word jetsam?
I have not, but I might have. Flotsam,
might have?
maybe. I've never seen Jetsam by itself.
Because you know how you do a Google search for a word frequency?
What the heck?
They have flotsam and jetsam.
Right.
Okay, so no, this compares them. Jetsam is orange. Okay, so flotsam is higher than jetsam.
That's what I'm saying.
Flotsam is red and jetsam is orange.
When's the last time you... I have used flotsam by itself. I mean, in a group of other words, forming a sentence. Like it's like we're wandering out there amongst the flotsam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, next time you're about to use the word flotsam, you should just throw the word in jetsam.
Yeah, just because you feel bad for it.
I feel so sorry for this poor word jetsam.
I know.
It's always second fiddle.
Yeah.
It's like the Prince Harry of words.
Oh, jeez.
I am not the Prince Harry of words. How dare you?
It's like the Faramir of words.
It's like the Faramir of words. Jetsam is the Faramir of words.
Yeah, Jetsam is like his Boromir, and then there's like if the
Flotsam
dictionary,
is Boromir.
Yeah, Flotsam. But if the dictionary were Denethor,
if the dictionary were Denethor,
yeah,
Jetsam would be the Faramir of words.
Jetsam would be the Faramir of.
See how we solve things on this show?
Science.
The other thing is we got to remind ourselves always that Tolkien is like a linguist and a language scholar, and so I think he probably just heard these words and he knew that what was going on in Isengard with the flood, the flooding of the whole land, and it's like he described it like a big saucepan.
Yeah, boiling saucepan.
Yeah, a boiling saucepan. So it's like this circular walled off territory that's been flooded, and now it's kind of boiling. So the circular saucepan was an apt metaphor, and he probably thought like, oh, here's a great opportunity to use these obscure words I know, flotsam and jetsam, and then
he was getting all happy.
But let me just say one more thing, since we're here on the idea of Tolkien being a language scholar.
Right.
This might be a stretch, okay? But remember in our last episode, we pointed out that Tolkien actually used a heron, the bird a heron, as a description of how the Ents walked.
Yes.
In this kind of stick-like way, because if you ever watch a heron walk, it looks very flexible, and it walks like you would imagine a tree walking.
Right.
It's like these stick legs that just kind of bend in this very angular way. Right. And so he used heron to describe an Ent's gait. And then,
but the knees bend backwards.
Yeah, the knees bend backwards, which is just insane.
It's weird.
It's like they're walking backwards. It's like they're moonwalking.
I was all with the walking trees until the heron thing, and I was like, "What? That's ridiculous!"
Right.
The knees bending backwards. I don't buy it.
Is it too much of a stretch to imagine that Tolkien made a connection in his mind? And I don't know, this might be ridiculous of me to even suggest, but that Tolkien made a connection in his mind between the Herons and the Huorns.
No, I was actually kind of like, once you started bringing that up last week when you brought that up, I kind of misheard you, or I thought you misspoke, and then you're like, oh, heron.
Right. Well, that's the weird thing, is because you know how we were talking about, again last week, how we always mispronounced, like when we were very young, we mispronounced Aragorn as Aragon or even Argon. Like we didn't say it right. And then the first thing that came into our minds, like, this word Huorn is an odd sounding word by modern English standards.
Yes.
Right. But it's very similar to heron, and you have to. And I think I actually, when I read this as a child, I think I actually pronounced Huorn. I pronounced it Heron.
Right.
Did some kind of dyslexic switcheroo. And I don't know, like, just because Tolkien used this word heron, and then in the very next chapter, he starts talking about these things called Huorns, and he used the heron in order to describe an Ent-like creature and their walk, and then in the next chapter, he uses this word Huorn.
Yeah.
Me being a linguistic scholar, I'm like, maybe he thought that a heron is our modern, like, he was imagining that, somewhere along the line, some guy saw this thing walking, and he's basically trying to call this a horn. He's trying to say, hey, that thing looks like this tree thing that I've seen walking around like a long time ago. And this is like the fake Lord of the Rings etymology of this word heron.
Yeah. But this is like the first chapter where they actually use the word, I think, or
yeah.
explain what they are.
Yeah, he goes into a little bit more depth, and they take more center stage.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we could go to the section where he talks about the Ents and stuff, but before we go there, he talks about the march of the Huorns.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a hard word to say.
I know it's weird because it sounds like it doesn't sound like a word that it should be pronounced the way that it. It feels weird pronouncing it the way that it looks.
It hurts the eye. It hurts the mind.
Yeah. So maybe that's why they did that too, because it's like because they march in shadows. Maybe
Americans and probably most Anglophonic people aren't used to having a UO.
Yeah.
A U followed by an O.
Yeah, because it would be O followed by a U, which would be color.
Oh, right. Then we'd be British.
I don't know. You're the one.
But anyway, but before we get to the march of these Huorns, I just want to ask the question. So most of this chapter is like the hobbits telling the story of the war, the battle that the hunters missed.
Right, yeah.
But it's said as a retelling of something that had just happened, rather than Tolkien describing the action as it was happening, like had just happened in Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
So do you think that? So it's basically an exposition. Like let me tell you what just happened a bit ago. Is that effective? Does that take away a little bit of the feeling of dramatic tension?
I don't think so. When the narrator is kind of saying what's happening, right? It seems a little bit less Hobbit-like. This seems more of like it's more compelling. I think it works for me. It does.
So you actually prefer it being related by a character rather than by a narrator?
For this chapter, it works.
For this is Mary, who is describing the Ents and how they kind of fell upon Isengard and started to kind of rip it to shreds.
Right.
And like, for instance, the fact that it's a hobbit talking and not a narrator, I think it makes it a little bit more emotional when right at the middle of the page, Mary says, an angry Ent is terrifying.
Yeah,
like he gives it that value judgment. Whereas like just a narrator might just describe an angry Ent, but wouldn't like give it the value judgment like, oh, it's a terrifying thing to see. This is my favorite part where he says, their fingers and their toes just freeze onto the rock and they tear it up like bread crust.
Yeah.
It was, and this part especially, it was like watching the work of great tree roots in 100 years all packed into a few moments.
But
I love that image.
Yeah, because that kind of like that paints a picture of like, oh, it just like a time lapse kind of thing.
Yeah, a time lapse, because like everyone's seen like, you could walk along any sidewalk and everyone's seen like, oh, this tree root over time has destroyed this section of sidewalk. It's like poking up and it's like this, and like the tree roots messing up the sidewalk. It's like destroying the concrete. And everyone's seen that, but they know that happens through time. So tree roots are very powerful through time, but this is basically saying, imagine a tree that can do that in a few seconds, like like just devouring rock and concrete and steel and stone, and it was just really cool. I always liked that.
Yeah, you know what? I can't remember, but it seems to me that for the Jackson movie, there's kind of a wasted opportunity to like show that in a cinematic kind of way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know that he ever actually pulled that off.
It was like more of like
fresh
just
in mind.
things.
I don't know if I actually saw it with my eyes.
Yeah, where like because in somewhere in this chapter, basically Treebeard was playing with the wall, just like tearing bits of the wall down, like out of boredom or just to pass the time.
Oh right, no, he said that. He was like, there it is. Then the Eisen can run clean again. He began to pull down a bit more of the walls in a leisurely sort of way, just to amuse himself. At the top.
Yeah.
I love just seeing the action of these trees, and how, Tolkien being a tree lover.
I want to mourn the loss of all trees and tell them that we love them.
I can just imagine him looking at how trees are very powerful and can uproot and crack rocks, and he's just thinking like, wouldn't that be cool if that process could be sped up? It's and I think we've all seen like time lapse of it's disgusting, but like maggots devouring the corpse of an animal, like a dog. Like they go in and they suck it all out, and it just kind of deflates.
You could have said like time lapse of the clouds going by in the sky, but
no, but like just like yeah, I know, but that's actually not like something that only through time do you realize that it's actually quite a powerful process that can decompose things. And I just see these these Ents with their little stick-like fingers going in there and just little maggoty fingers just decomposing organic matter. Just it's just an interesting and cool image.
I still think, and again, I'm probably whatever that the old forest outside of Hollow,
those are Huorns.
Yeah,
like Old Man Willow.
Yeah, those are the old Endwives.
Yeah, I think Tolkien's definitely suggesting that. So he's produced a small leather bag full of tobacco. We have heaps of it. It would be good, said Gimli, if I had a pipe to go with it. Alas, I lost mine in Moria or before.
Here's the thing. This once and for all should have put the whole like Jackson pipe smoking thing to rest. He said they have a pipe of tobacco. It's like, it's a leather bag full of tobacco. It's not it's tobacco, right?
Oh, you mean like long bottom leaf is marijuana kind of thing?
Yeah, like the whole long bottom leaf is marijuana, and like how they.
Oh, right.
It's implied that like, oh look, they're getting all hopped up on Mary Jane,
right. Because when we see him, like look at they're doing the like look at Mary.
Yeah.
Like they're
like they're sitting there eating food and
getting the munchies.
Yeah,
he's making them look super high. Look at those eyes. Look at those high eyes. He's got
one of my pet peeves is when they take something seemingly innocent, like not that tobacco's innocent. You know what I'm talking about?
Can be.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, let's imply that this may be marijuana, and or whatever.
Well, and again, especially how he treated Radagast.
Yeah,
total,
like Radagast,
like mushroom addled hippie.
Yeah, like he was like, here, have a hit of this, Cheech. It struck me when I was reading at the end of the chapter when Aragorn's they're talking about the tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
And Saruman's secret dealings with somebody in the Shire. It kind of foreshadows a little bit the scouring of the Shire.
Because the long bottom leaf came from South Farthing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, there must be a worm tongue in the Shire or someone dealing with Saruman from the Shire. So, and who was it? Aragorn is like, I should let Gandalf know about this. Was it Aragorn who says that?
Yeah, I think it's Aragorn. It's the last page of the chapter, I think.
He says, yet I think I'll mention it to Gandalf, small matter though it may seem among his great affairs. Yeah, so definitely 100% telegraphing, like, or foreshadowing the
Something
whole
that's gonna happen to the
scouring of the Shire. Yeah. Like, it's a big debate. Some people I've heard anyway, I've never had a problem with it, but some people are like, Tolkien destroys the ring, spoiler alert, right? In Mount Doom. And then you have this, like, some people think that the scouring of the Shire is this kind of unwieldy extra stuff that he should have just not even bothered with, because the big moment, the big crisis, or the big climax is Mount Doom, and you should just quickly wrap it up and end it. But I always thought, and I think
who says this?
People,
they're wrong, but
I just think that this idea of the idea that is foreshadowed here, that Saruman would, after getting cast down or cast out of Orthanc, would go and try to recreate Mordor or Isengard in the Shire and make a new Mordor kind of in the Shire, is very telling. Like, you can destroy the One Ring and you can destroy Sauron, but there's always the possibility that your own homeland is going to be corrupted from within, or corrupted by elements that are working against the population's best interest or whatever.
But I think this needed to happen because the hobbits needed to be independent and strong on their own. They did not have the Dunedain to protect them,
Right,
so they had to show like they were capable of taking care of themselves.